What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one, we're breaking down what's going on with Tesla, SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of tickers out there. I'm going to talk about some big data that's coming out that's affecting the whole market, what you should be watching for in the pre-market. But before I do anything like this, let me just mention a couple of things. I'm firstly not a financial planner, so take none of this as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo, the link down below, and deposit $100 into the account, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks plus a $50 cash reward. The offer ends in 1 day, so check it out before they run out. Anyways, now let's talk about the charts. Let's talk about the market. How are things looking? So, just as a reminder, the daily chart on SPY looks more bullish overall as we just got this bullish cross in the PPO. And then if you look at Apple stock, it's also looking more bullish. It's trying to gap up right now, continuing to push the upwards direction. Is it possible for the market to try to cool off its RSI just a little bit, come down just a tiny bit? That is very much possible. But overall, I do believe the trend is now favoring the bulls a lot more as we're starting to see more and more bulls come back and start pushing the market up in anticipation of Apple's big event, which is coming out within 2 weeks. And on top of that, Apple is just a monster. It's going to drag this market up. But before I talk more about the charts, I just want to break down something else that's very important for the markets. Let me just mention that we had some new revised economic data as we ended up seeing the economic growth for the last quarter end up dropping just a little bit, at least based off the revised expectations. So we used to expect that the US economy grew, or the GDP grew by like 2.4%, and now it went down to about 2.1%. So a slight adjustment was made. This hasn't really affected the market that horribly, or nothing really huge happened since this is like a relatively minor change and still is showing positive growth in the same direction. But had this been much bigger, very different, the market could have made a bigger move. But for now, it's not affecting the market like that badly. Besides that, just as a reminder, there's not much else data coming out for the rest of the day. We have the pending home sales 30 minutes after the market opens, which could cause some volatility, but nothing too crazy. And then things become crazier starting tomorrow when we have the PCE data and initial jobless claims, followed by Friday when we have the unemployment rate. So all of this is going to be very important. Make sure you pay very close attention to all this data tomorrow, especially. And then when it comes to earnings, as a quick reminder, there's nothing really too big coming out. We have like Salesforce, a couple of AI stocks out there, some chip stocks, not to mention Chewy and just a few others. And for Thursday, we have like Dollar Tree, and the list goes on. Now, some things to know about the market before we open for Wednesday. You just have to remember that tech stocks have rebounded just a little bit, and they're still looking a lot better as they're continuing to grow. We're also seeing that there are going to be new price negotiations for particular drugs. That is important for the medical sector. And we start to see some changes to regional banks out there. Many bank failures were once again on the table. There were many talks about them. And for that reason, many agencies have unveiled new plans with new requirements to help offset them. They basically talked about this, and they're still preparing for more potential failures. So that's on the table. We'll have to be prepared for this in case there are any more announcements. But so far, I haven't seen anything this morning, so we will just keep that in the back of our minds. And then on top of all of this, when it comes to crypto, we're seeing some new changes being made to legislator, which is once again positively impacting crypto so far. There are other things out there which are not as great, but for now we're just going to be looking at those. And there's also the hurricane going on in Florida, so that's very sad. My heart goes out to every Floridians out there and everyone else that's like being affected by it. Hope everyone stays safe. Anyways, now let's talk about the charts. Let's talk about how everything is looking so far. So overall, guys, like I was saying, Apple's looking bullish overall. The overall trend for the next few days, next week, is looking more bullish for most stocks out there, most tech stocks from Nvda to SPY, and the list goes on. But here's some levels to watch for. So we're kind of in this range right now for SPY between this 450 and 448 zone. It is possible that we range trade for a bit before we get the breakout. We could even retrace a little bit and retest like 449, 448 below that. If we break below 448, then 447.5 could technically be retested before this thing tries to bounce. But even if it does come down, guys, I still think that ultimately, as time goes on, we're eventually going to make our way back up to 451. And then, we'll push through that and start pushing for like 452.8, and the list goes on. We'll keep going and going and going to fill our gaps above. And we have that gap above on SPY all the way up to about 456. I think it's going to go all the way up there, honestly, with everyone. I think it's going to push all the way up here ultimately. But for today specifically, watch this range for the time being, 448 to 450. We'll see which way it breaks. If it breaks above 450 and holds it, we're going to be watching 451 as the next level. It definitely has potential to push up a lot more. I don't think the momentum is done just yet. Now, for Aapl, okay, this is also going to start range trading just a little bit. You can see we have this range of the day right here, the range between just under 185 and then support around 183.5. So we have this range right here on Aapl. We're going to be watching this range. If we get a break below 183.5, it's going to start sinking to 182.5, maybe a little bit lower. But even if that happens, guys, I'm not too worried about it because ultimately it is going to push its way up just like SPY. Now, what I'm thinking for today, however, is we may remain in this range for some time, and I think we're eventually going to make an attempt to break 185. We'll see if this breaks or not. I think the odds do favor it eventually breaking. And soon in the future, we're going to hit 186 as the next level. And this is eventually going to drag the markets upwards. So I do believe this thing has the potential to do so. It's just on 185 is going to be a little tricky as resistance. But ultimately, I do see Aapl potentially breaking this. We have a nice inverse head and shoulder structure, nice cup and handle. It's ultimately going to start pushing much higher. I still believe that it's going to push the market upwards. And I do believe the bulls have the edge. For the QQQ, same thing. This thing is also in this range right up here. We have this range between about, what is this? 370, it's like 373.6 as our support. And then for the resistance level, you're going to be watching 375 right up there. So we're going to be watching this range right here and see which way we end up breaking. For now, we're looking a little more strong, a little bit more bullish in this accumulation phase for the cup and handle. So I do believe the odds favor a break to 376 plus. And if you do end up getting that break, the market could start pushing even more and start hitting 378 very, very soon. I think this looks more bullish overall. I think the QQQ may start off kind of like a range bound and eventually try to break out towards 376. So far, so good. Just looking at the current structure. For Nvda stock, I just wanted to mention that Nvda is not looking too bad whatsoever. Nice accumulation. We have another inverse head and shoulders like structure. And overall, I just wanted to mention that it most definitely has quite a bit of potential to continue pushing. Now, with this inverse head and shoulders, I think that Nvidia is going to be well on its way towards that 500 area very, very soon. And I also believe that with this potentially forming, we have these imbalances up here, which are going to get filled towards 500, and it could eventually break even higher thanks to the inverse head and shoulders. But for now, we're going to be watching Nvidia kind of like range trade between this area right here. 485 is going to be our like really, really strong support. And then for resistance, you're going to be watching 495. I think it's going to just kind of range trade for a little bit, could retrace just a tiny bit, then start pushing for 500 plus very, very soon. More bullish overall, in my opinion. And then finally, for Tesla stock, Tesla is retracing just a little bit, completely normal after the monstrous run we saw yesterday. It's kind of retracing just a bit. It's at 255. We could see it come down to the 252s, if not 250. Retrace a little bit more before this thing tries to bounce. I think it could retrace and retest like these lower levels, 255, 2.5 around there, and then it may bounce from this range, from this pre-market low, and then attempt to just at least consolidate in this range. I still think Tesla's going to try to hold up temporarily. I do believe that it could pull back a little bit more from here, but it's going to try to hold this range for the time being, and then in the future, I do believe it's going to eventually break out to much higher levels. You just have to give it a little bit more time because of the fact that Tesla had been dropping. Tesla needs to cool off a little bit on the RSI, but eventually it's going to break out, and I do see it breaking above 260 to 265 very soon. For now, watch this range, watch it maybe retrace just a little bit before it continues higher. Now, another thing I just want to mention is that the VIX is currently still looking bearish. It's still on this like nice downtrend. So we're going to be watching this gap down here. Just going to be looking at it very, very carefully. And then don't forget about the fact that the dollar is, continuing to look more bearish. If the dollar continues dropping, that's another bullish signal for the markets. So I do believe the stock market has more upside potential ultimately. I do believe the bulls have the edge. That's what I'm seeing for the markets for now. And for the time being, could we see a smaller retracement on some tickers like Tesla and Nvda? Sure, we could. Very, very small one. I think ultimately they need to consolidate a little bit. Even a small little like tiny little pullback, testing like 448 on SPY would be completely normal. But eventually, I still see it bouncing and breaking out and continuing to push thanks to Aapl and other tickers out there. So I do believe the bulls have the edge. And for now, just watch the levels and the ranges I mentioned very carefully. All right, guys, thank you for listening. Have a great day. Market to the moon because the long term is very bright. And peace